Good morning, folks. How's everybody doing this morning? Let me get over to our live stream. There we go. And let me not forget to get my screen sharing started here, like I did last time. It's good. Good to go. What's up, JB Long? What's up, Navy Plum? Cultra, K Ultra, Cultra, Buzzo. Good to see you guys here. RS, thanks for joining. Appreciate you. All right, let me get over to my S chart. We'll talk about sort of what I'm seeing, how things are looking on the market overall, where we could maybe hopefully find a balance if this demand zone that we are currently testing does not hold up. But we'll give folks just a little bit to start to trickle in. That being said, if you guys have any questions or if you want to go ahead and start hitting me with any tickers, yes, morning, yes, Cultra. Okay, cool. Cultra. We'll go with Cultra. What's up, Trade Alerts? Good to have you here, brother. Um, yeah, like I was saying, if you have questions, ticker requests, etc., please feel free to go ahead and start dropping those in the chat. For those of you who are newer to joining these live streams, the chat window is a little word bubble looking thing up in the top right hand corner of your screen if you're looking at nothing but a bunch of avatar tiles. So open up that chat window. That's a great way to dialogue with me so we can make this a two-way discussion and work together to come up with some plans that typically, nothing's perfect, but typically wind up with profitable results, we'll say. All right, so let me get this coffee going. All right. So a couple of things that I'm just looking at currently here on ES, which is S&P futures. You know, kind of the most concerning thing to me, and this was last week, is when we broke this weekly uptrend. We dipped below it once, but we ultimately reclaimed it by the time that weekly candle closed. Not so much this go around, so we've definitely broken down below that trend line and never really back tested it, which is why I'm kind of keeping it on watch just in case we make a run up. We may see at least one back test and pull back before it does, before things are able to push through it back over this level. So I'd like to keep it on watch for a possible upside price target if we are making a run back to the upside, which, you know, at the moment doesn't look promising, but you never know. We do also have bigger picture, a downtrend. And this is on the weekly chart. It starts back here, the highs of July, multiple tests, right, rejections that have just taken us down. Now we're a little bit overextended from that trend line, but overall that would be a huge momentum shift, I think, to break back over how this trend line is moving. So keep your eye on that. And then a little bit more dialed in perspective, we are also wrestling with an hourly trend line, multiple rejections, including the kind of high point, I think, of Tuesday's trading session, rejected from that point and has sent us down further. So, you know, keep your head on a swivel. We're definitely in a bit of bear mode, I'd say, at this point. Not seeing any kind of ascending trend lines or anything that's really helping push the market back up. Do have a lot of earnings reports still left to get through this week. And also, there is one thing, actually, I'm sorry, I take that back, that we might have working in our favor. Let me turn my indicators on here. We may be, if we continue down, we may need to go as far as this 200 SMA here on the weekly chart. Pretty much, I mean, it didn't bounce exactly off of it, but never closed a candle below it, even on the, you know, kind of big sell down last year in 2022. So that's coming up. It's now up in the, you know, I'd say, right, it'll probably wind up in the 40-80 range, call it 4100 if you want kind of a easy psychological level to remember. So keep an eye on that level and range. That could be a good buy the dip opportunity to see if we can't rally back and break through some of these you know, bearish factors that we are currently struggling with. on multiple time frames. So with that, let's get to reviewing a couple of the two trade plans that we did on Tuesday, and then if you guys have tickers that you want me to do some trade plans and do some live analysis on, please go ahead and start giving me some tickers to work on. Otherwise, I'm just gonna pull names out of a hat. All right, so one of our plans from Tuesday's live stream was marathon holdings. Obviously, with crypto having kind of been on quite a run here lately, marathon is a good one to keep a watch on. We've mentioned this along with Riot, Hut, MicroStrategy, MSTR, Coin. All those are going to be heavily influenced by what crypto is doing. For the first time in a few days, we're seeing a little bit of pullback on crypto, but I mean, I think that is totally normal. We expect to see some profit taking at some point. Still hovering well above 34,000 though, so probably going to be a little bit of a wait and hold while again, some of these Bitcoin spot ETFs get greenlit and start being listed and actively traded and all that sort of stuff. So once that stuff starts to happen, I think the whole sector is going to start popping off. Probably sees a fairly explosive move that could easily turn into some kind of a short squeeze, depending on the tickers and how heavily they're being shorted or were being shorted prior to this run. But I also think that there could be maybe minimal short exposure in that space. Unless there's just people who are hardcore perma crypto bears, because I think this is one of the few scenarios where you can kind of see what's coming. It's been pretty clear for quite some time now that the SEC is only going to be able to fight and delay allowing these Bitcoin ETFs to move forward for so long. It's almost an inevitability. It's not really an if but when scenario. So if you're not already positioned, make sure that if you are positioning yourself for any of these moves in the crypto space, especially if you're doing it from an options perspective, that you are giving yourself ample time, because there's just no crystal ball as to what day and what time that announcement will happen. But when it does, expect things to run even more than they already have as far as crypto goes. So that's why we had Marathon on our it was one of our requested tickers. I'm sure people trying to keep an eye on what's going to happen with this space. I did talk about this weekly level and being a little bit iffy, setting our price target above it. Apparently I should have listened to my gut here. At price action wise though, it just looked to me, if I recall correctly, like that 1091 level was more than likely our next target over 1043, and I was basing it pretty much off of this rejection that led down and a back test and rejection of our call entry level. So I'm not sure why we didn't fully recover essentially a little bit of that fair value gap there, but weekly levels are always challenging. We tapped it perfectly and rejected, but that wasn't my target. My target was higher. So that one I should have either gone more conservative or maybe even used that weekly as the entry level and looked for a bigger move to the upside. So anyway, is what it is. Apologies if anybody got caught in this one. I'm still personally holding shares of Marathon and Riot and Hut now, actually at this point. Haven't done anything options wise with this trade plan yet personally. It does appear to be breaking down a little bit here, but again, I'd be, even though the plan is starting to call for puts, and it definitely looks bearish, back test of this put entry level, as you can see, is rejecting. Everything's kind of moving to the downside. I mean, it may not be the worst thing in the world to try a really, tightly stopped and sort of a low expectation short position, kind of be in and out. I wouldn't go with a long swing on anything short on crypto, just because again, you never know when that news is going to drop of the ETFs getting the go ahead, and things are just going to start running at that point. So that's that one. First Solar, we did talk about trying to play this one on a break of the trend line. So if you caught that, congrats. broke over our trend line, broke over stop loss average down level, moved up to the call entry level. Looked like a pretty good confirmed break there, but then it's just sort of puttered out. So again, not really totally sure why that didn't get continuation, other than just the markets in general have started pulling back pretty significantly, and First Solar is probably just now a victim of that. Now it's gapped down a couple of times. The positive side of that is, well, now there's a couple of gaps that need to be filled to the upside here. So be a good one to keep your eyes on. Definitely be interested to possibly watch for a potential bounce entry there around 147.09 on First Solar. So if you played the trend break, you should have done pretty well. If you got caught in calls on either of these, fairly good looking confirmed breaks, again, I think the only reason we didn't get continuation is the market is just kind of accelerated to the downside. For Solar showed some relative strength for a while, but I mean, eventually, if the market's moving down enough, it's going to drag everything with it, regardless of relative strength. So, definitely been a little bit of a challenging week this week for sure. I think just with the markets in general, unless you're scalping, and for me, it's really been scalping SPY for the most part this week. Although I have not been available to do it as much as I'd like to, and definitely missed some opportunities yesterday, especially with that weird options glitch. I tried to buy contracts at the bottom and got filled, and then they didn't move like forever, even though it was moving up. And I was like, okay, I don't know when they're going to clear this thing up, so I just closed them for pretty close to break even, small loss. And then of course they fixed the options contract issue, market moved, and those would have been profitable. But I kind of had two trades that my entries were great. How I handled the trades was less than ideal, which my head was elsewhere yesterday, and it was clear to me by how I was trading. So I kind of cut myself off early into the day and said, okay, I got to focus on these other things that I got to get figured out. So anyway, let's get to some new trade plans. All right, CLS and Affirm so far we've gotten from Harry and Navy Plum. If you guys have any others, please feel free to drop those in the chat. CLS, that sounds familiar, but don't know what it is off the top of my head. So, no, definitely not heard of this one before. Celestica. What does well, they just reported earnings. Positive earnings and sold off. That's interesting. I clearly was not listening to their conference call. Don't know if they had poor guidance or kind of not a rosy outlook on things, which is why they dropped. A pretty good surprise beat on earnings and revenue, really. I mean, 4 and 10%, 11% essentially is nothing to sneeze about. Those are pretty good beats, I'd say. But yeah, still dropped. Electric. So what do these guys do? Engages in the provision of supply chain solutions. Okay. So just a kind of a pretty broadly spread tech company, Canadian tech company. Okay. Well, let's take a look at it. Let's see what we can't figure out as far as how we want to plan this. We'll definitely not be using extended hours to do our plans for this one because of all of this craziness. So I've talked about that a few times on previous live streams as far as when and when not to use extended hours. When you see kind of crazy little hash marks all over the place, kind of looks like stars in the sky, probably not one that you want to look at extended hours on if you see that type of price action during pre-market or after hours trading. So it's on a little bit of a run and pulled back on good earnings. That's interesting. So the first thing that really kind of sticks out to me is, yeah, we got some kind of a weekly level right here. Curious how that looks based on the current price action. Is that kind of where we, yeah, it is. Right where we rallied, base rallied off that level. So that's definitely one to keep on watch there, 2059. Let's see what other ones we can spot from this previous price action. Yeah, it's a pretty decent level we'll want to watch. Hmm. Does that help us at all here recently? Nope. Okay, that answers my question. Yeah, pretty much everything's below 26.59. I should have easily seen that. 2, 3, 4. I think we got something there. Yeah, that's pretty good. Hmm. Yeah, that level's more like right there. It's an interesting double top there. Got a good support touch there. More topping there. I like that level. Okay, we need maybe one more weekly level to the downside, and I think we've probably covered the reasonable range for a trade plan. I think we're looking at that right there. Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's go here to recent. Maybe there's enough price action in here for us to start to see some of these daily levels. It's definitely an interesting one. And if you guys have any questions about anything, really, feel free to start dropping those in the chat. For those of you watching on YouTube, apologies that you don't quite have as much access as our Discord members do. This is really kind of something we do in our Discord, which is the Xtrades trading community. And we do it for our members, but we started broadcasting it to YouTube because I think it's really good information, and hopefully, it inspires people watching who want to learn how to become better traders to at least come, do a trial with Xtrades, check it out, see what you think. I find very few people are disappointed, and typically, those who seem to have sort of a bitter taste in their mouth if and when they leave the the community, it seems a lot of times that they just had very unrealistic expectations about how trading works and how I'm gonna trade options and quit my job in the next 3 weeks, and I've never done it prior to today. I feel like like that's a lot of the people's attitudes toward trading, and it's it is not an easy game to learn, but the best place to learn it is definitely with us at Xtrades for sure. So more of a commercial for those watching on YouTube for our members who are sitting here listening to me, drone on about what they already know. My apologies, but we do broadcast this to YouTube now, so I want people to kind of know sort of what they're missing, and the fact that you guys can actually talk to me and ask for ticker requests, and we engage throughout the trading day in the chat, so lots of benefits. But thanks for joining us if you are watching on YouTube. I think there's a lot of value in these live trade planning sessions. But unfortunately, if you have a question about what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, or questions about the market in general, I don't have a way to interface with you. So join our Discord, check it out, and then we can talk all you want. I'll answer all the questions you want. Tip for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I was like, what is he referring to? That's good one, Navy Plum. Yeah, that's a long expectation. I don't think I can hang in for 3 weeks to become good at this. I should be able to quit my job that fast, right? I'm just gonna come in here. You guys are gonna make me rich in the next week, and that'll be that. Game over. I don't need to actually learn anything. Just tell me what to do. Which is, I get it. It's human nature to want the easy route, but it's also why Wall Street has most of their trading done by bots now. Take human nature out of the equation. Deepak, I'm gonna answer this question, and I'm probably going to make the answer more complex than it needs to be. So what you're seeing on my screen right now is actually my charting platform, which is called TradingView. Um, there are lots of charting platforms out there. I've used many of them. By far, TradingView is my favorite. Has a lot of really cool features, nice tools, um, accessible from pretty much anywhere that you have an internet connection. So lots of advantages to TradingView for sure. And if it's something that you want to talk more about or dig deeper into, feel free to shoot me a DM. I'm happy to kind of talk you through it. I can even hook you up with a link to get signed up for your membership. And then also for those of you who are either current TradingView users or thinking about picking up a paid version, yes, I love their apps, Harry. I agree with that 100%. They do have their Black Friday sale coming up here pretty soon on Black Friday, which typically, like if you go with their like highest tier trading, their subscription plan, I should say, I think it's like something like 60% off. Like essentially, you can get like a year of access to their highest level, most feature rich version of TradingView for the same price of their entry level subscription plan. But that being said, you by no means have to have a paid TradingView subscription to use TradingView. There is a free version of it that you can use to kind of just start to familiarize yourself with it, make sure that you're that you do like it and it's something that you're going to be comfortable with using. But they have also, I will say, really limited and stripped out a lot of the stuff, like really, to me, kind of basic features from their free plans. But you know, I get it. They're they're in business to make money. So you know, you get to a point where you really have to incentivize people to bite the bullet and pay that fee, that subscription. And so like custom time frames, things like that, I think, and you used to be able to get extra market data access, I think, with without having to have a paid version of TradingView, and that's no longer the case either. So they changed some of this, what's available with that free version, but definitely still worth kind of using it a little bit if you want to make sure it's something that you like. And then, you know, I use different brokers. Some brokers will integrate directly with TradingView, like my futures brokerage that I use, which is AMP. I can execute my trades right here on the chart for that using that broker. But most of the time, I'm you know, doing all my charting and watching everything in TradingView and on all my screens. And then when it comes time to actually enter and exit trades, I'm doing all that on my phone while I'm watching the charts on my screens. So anyway, I hope that helps, Deepak. Please feel free to shoot me a DM. I'll walk you through whatever I can. I'll also get you that TradingView link if you are interested. Absolutely, man. Welcome to the community. And if you're new to this, take your time, learn first, walk before you run, paper trade, paper trade, paper trade, until you kind of at least have the mechanics down and at least have a decent kind of idea of why you're entering and exiting trades. Don't jump in and start throwing a bunch of money at alerts and follow blindly. That's, I mean, our alerts are fantastic, don't get me wrong, but it's not, you know, you need to kind of have a system in place, even if you're going to be following alerts. What's your system for following the alerts, right? What's your position sizing? What's your risk management? How are you handling all that stuff? You know, otherwise, you know, what I typically see, and kind of goes back to, or what I won't say typically, what I hate to see is, you know, when somebody comes in and just, you know, way oversizes on their position. It's, you know, maybe the one red trade on the whole day that somebody alerted, but you know, sometimes you just follow the wrong trade. But that's why it's also important to know why you're in a trade, right? And so that goes back to kind of my emphasis on always learning and educating. I mean, I'd really prefer to just, I know we need to provide alerts because that's sort of important, and I think also helpful to an extent for people to actually be able to watch how we're entering and exiting trades. But the other side of that, I kind of would say, I really would lean more toward, I wish we were just doing trade plans, and just saying, hey, here's the trade plan. We could set some alerts on the charts that would send, kind of notifications into the Discord via webhook, um, and just, say, hey, we've already got the plan, but here's a notification that one of our key levels for the plan, something's happening with it, and you may want to pull up this chart, look at the plan, and be ready to execute, knowing in advance what your stop loss level is, what your price targets are, all that stuff. Um, it's something we'll probably do. I've pitched the idea to Kevin, the owner of Xtrades, and he was actually really keen on it. I think it's probably on me at this point to follow up with him and say, okay, let's pick a channel, let's establish that webhook, and then when I do the daily spy plan or member selected tickers or whatever, I'll create alerts attached to each level that's a part of the plan, and those alerts will webhook into the Discord and say, okay, potential entry spy calls, or potential entry spy puts, check for confirmation, something like that, and it would also provide a link to the chart and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, if you guys are interested in that, I will try to get back on that. I've had some stuff going on outside the market. I mean, nothing too terrible or anything, but I've just had some things that I've had to take care of outside the market, so I haven't had the time I would like to have to follow through on that. Short, but yeah, I'm down for it, 100%. Yeah, Chris, saying exactly what I was just saying a little bit ago about that Black Friday sale. And the key for me on that is if you set up your, start your subscription, your annual subscription on Black Friday, guess what happens when it's renewal time? It's Black Friday again. And you're just constantly renewing at that discounted rate. So, yeah, it's use Black Friday as an opportunity. If you have interest in TradingView, I say, personally, I would go for the premium plan at that point, because I think it's been a while, because I've kind of like rolled so many plans over with TradingView that I forget what the price points are on it. But I want to say it's like for like annual premium, which is their highest level plan, or was. I think they might have added one more tier above that now even. It's like, I think it's typically like $600 or $700, and it's like 360 or something like that, during Black Friday. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing any levels, but where's the price action? It's all probably way down here. Yeah, sorry, it just happens when we get to these smaller time frames, and it's been a long time since we've tested through a certain range. All right, now that I've got something to look at here. Yeah, that's probably so. Okay, let's see if we don't have what we need to put together a plan on CLS. Also seems to be losing this uptrend that I'm kind of eyeballing, or was kind of eyeballing, and that uptrend actually probably sits a little bit more. Maybe even there. Yeah, probably right about there. Oh, that's a great question, Harry. Chris probably got you covered on that. Yep, that's true too. Yeah, I haven't flashed the indicators yet, but thank you, Chris. We'll talk about those here in just a second, because we're going to use them to plan this trade. So, looking at this breakdown, I definitely would be leaning a little bit bearish on this, even though, again, it's an earnings-based drop on fairly positive earnings. The other thing that I'd say is, be a little bit careful playing anything too close after earnings. Generally speaking, there's a 3-day. A lot of traders use a 3-day rule before they get into any kind of options or heavy trades on something that's just reported. So keep that in mind as far as, maybe being a little bit patient for this one. But that said, let's figure out what we want to do with it. So let's pop our indicators on. Everything has flipped bearish really over the last few days. So Neptune almost calling that earnings report drop there. Going back to pre-market on last Thursday, everything flipped upside down here on the hourly. Let's see if we have any kind of, yeah, there we go. You have the 200 SMA confluence right here at this 2367 level. There is an interesting level right here too that I didn't have marked yet. So, what I'm thinking, I think what we want to see is we want to see 2312 give way. Try to play this to the downside. I think that gives us essentially a confluence backstop up here at 2367 for what should be a pretty solid stop loss average down, and that 200 should start curling and flattening out and coming back down if we break below 2312. I think that gives us a good first price target near this bounce and where the bottom of the Neptune flag was previously through that period here at 2186. I like that confluence. Below that, I think we come down to test this weekly level, 2059. And then below that, we did kind of fire the beginning or kind of a leg of this rally cleanly off this daily level down here at 1979. So I think it'd be crazy to try to hold too much further below that. Also good confluence there with the 333 SMA currently at 2059. And again, that would start to flatten out a little bit as we break below 2312. So yeah, I like that for the downside plan. For the upside, this is going to be a little tricky. It's looking pretty bearish, but let's see. Yeah, I think we need to reclaim this 2579 level. My concern is that this might be a slightly early entry. I almost want to see 2659 out of the way. But then I almost wonder if we're waiting too long and that winds up being a chase. So I think that also pretty clearly gives us a stop loss here around this 2530 level. And 2530, where I marked this, might be just a tad, probably a little bit closer to this 2524 spot. I think that gives us a first target. I made this mistake on Marathon Tuesday. I'm not going to make it again. We're going to use that weekly level first price target there at 2659. Over that, I think we take a shot at this daily level at 2749. Above that, we do have this one wick rejection, although that is, let me go back. Let me just look at this real quick. I want to see how this price action behaves up in that range. Come on, gotta go back forever. Well, now we've gone back as far as the hourly chart will go. Okay, 4-hour chart will get us there. There we go. Flew right past it for a second there. Okay. I want to see how this played out back here. Interesting. Yeah, there's a little bit of a fair value gap there that I think gets filled up to this 2876 level. All right. From forever ago. How much weight that holds. I mean, if we're talking about, get this out of the way, 2002 time frame, 20 years later, we're possibly revisiting that range. So sometimes it takes some time, but I think we got a pretty good trade plan on this. Let's put it in the chat. Let's out a little bit. What's this? There we go. All right. Trade plan. Here we go. So I'm gonna do my best auctioneer impression. So for CLS, we are looking for a break over 25.79 with targets at 26.59, 27.49, and 28.76 with a stop loss average down at 25.24. To play this to the downside, we're looking for a break below 23.12 with targets at 21.86, 20.59, and 19.79 with a stop loss average down at 23.67. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I would give this just that little tiny bit extra room to get the trade play out. Not going to mess up our risk reward all that much. Kind of looking at this rejection back here, really. So let's adjust this actually. Stop loss average down at 23.87, 20-cent difference, but on a $20 ticker, that makes a little bit of a difference actually. So, in fact, what I'm going to do, let me do that. There's a new one since it's a slight tweak there. All right, so that's CLS. Then let's take a look at a firm, I think it was, for Navy Plum. Scroll back through here. Yep, that was the next one, a firm. We'll try to get to DG and QQQ Storyteller, but that we're running close to market open. I do still have a SPY plan to put together for you guys. That was hitting hard yesterday. I don't feel like I executed my trades well yesterday, is all it is. My entries were great. My execution was subpar, but again, I was heavily distracted. Probably shouldn't have been trading at all. All right. Let's see. What are you doing, Affirm? Nice bounce here off this 1594 level, daily level. So my question is, does that open up room to the downside below it? I think the answer is pretty clearly yes. It's already looking at that as a first price or an entry level with this as a first price target down here at 1483. Next price target, don't want to ignore a weekly level, 1381. Also got some support throughout that period right off of or very near that level. Then down below that, I'd play where we bounced from right there down to 1292. So this one's going to get put together with quickness. Stop loss average down. Yeah, feel pretty good about this. What was support should act as resistance, especially if we get below 1594. So stop loss average down right here at 1674. It makes it very easy. We already have the levels on the chart, doesn't it? But this is also why I preach, and now you can see kind of in real time, why I preach taking the time to develop support resistance levels, go through your charts thoroughly, do it while the market's closed, get all your support resistance levels dialed in, because then all that you need to do is pull up the chart, take a look at your indicators, pick which levels you like to, you think look best to use for your trade plan, put together your plan and execute, right? And so, you know, that little bit of upfront time invested into building all these levels into your chart pays off in, you know, exponentially over the course of time, and you know, because you can extrapolate, you know, dozens if not hundreds of trade plans from it. So make sure you're going through that process. If you're not sure what that process even looks like, feel free to reach out to me or one of the other Xtrades analysts. Start talking to somebody about getting some mentoring, have somebody walk you through this stuff. It makes a huge difference in my experience, especially with, you know, kind of seeing the results in people that I've personally mentored. It's great. It's fantastic to see it, because, you know, somebody who's kind of like struggling, not really sure what they're doing or why they're doing it, all of a sudden, you know, is sending me messages about, you know, I've had a full profitable week and I'm following my plans, and I'm not, you know, I'm waiting for confirmation to get in. I'm not taking profit too early. I'm not getting stopped out prematurely. Like, all those things you got to work on to be good at this. And it's, like I said before, it's not easy, but if you're willing to learn, I think anybody can do it. Almost anybody can do it. You just have to be willing to learn, be patient, put the time in, know that this is not, you know, it is a path to financial freedom, but it takes time to get there. It's not going to happen overnight. I guess is my point. So, that being said, upside trade plan. These little kind of stops just shy of this 2067 level are interesting to me. I think I would shoot just a little bit below this daily level just to be safe or smart about profit taking. Which time period do you use for resistance support? Sometimes 2 minutes. Yeah, so great question, Deepak. You are just full of great questions, which is what I love to see. Um, so for me, I use when I'm drawing my support and resistance levels, I use multiple time frames. So I go from the weekly to the daily or 24-hour chart. There are kind of two different versions of the daily chart there. 4 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour. I go through all these time frames you see right here. And as I'm going through them, I'm color coding them. So that's why you see like some green lines, some white lines, some gray lines. All those colors mean different time frames. Or I spotted and drew those levels. I was able to validate them on a specific time frame. Then when I'm actually executing my trades, if I'm looking for something more of a day trade, I'm probably looking at the 3, 5, maybe 15-minute charts using hourly, weekly, all different kinds of other time frame support and resistance levels, but actually executing using those smaller time frames and also indicators on those smaller time frames. If you're looking at something more along the lines of swing trades, you're probably looking at the 15-minute, 30-minute hourly charts. So yeah, it's really, for me, it's a combination across the board as far as what time frames I'm using to execute and what time frames I'm using to draw my levels on. But it's something that you have to, whatever, how do I want to say this? It's something you really should systematize. When I say systematize, I mean, find a way that works really well, that you find is successful, and just keep using that system anytime you wind up with a naked chart, kind of like what we just did with CLS, right? I just went through that kind of a part of that process in a little bit quicker fashion than I would normally if I had all the time in the world to sit there and really dial in my levels. As soon as the first thing I do when I pull up a chart and I don't have any support or resistance on it, I go through my process. And if I'm doing it, outside of a live stream, and I'm taking my time and I'm making sure the accuracy is where I like it to be, to fill out a chart, sometimes it takes me an hour, maybe an hour and a half. If you're newer to doing that, or you don't have a system and you're still figuring it out, probably takes a little longer. But like I said, I mean, sort of in the scenario of this Affirm trade, that then pays off exponentially in the long run because you can extrapolate so many trade plans from that time invested. Because then you just need to kind of look at the price action, check your indicators, make sure everything looks good from those perspectives, and you're ready to go. You don't have to sit there and analyze the chart from top to bottom. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, Chris. I mean, you're zooming out to in, and really what you're doing is you're breaking down candles, right? So, if I start off looking at weekly candles, I start looking at daily candles after that. Well, inside that weekly candle is 5 daily candles, and inside those 5 daily candles are, X number of hourly candles, so on and so forth. So you're really kind of taking a peek at what the price action is doing inside of a candlestick as you zoom in. So yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly important part of the process. And the other thing that I really like about starting with higher time frames and going to smaller time frames is, if you're doing it correctly, once you've drawn all your weekly levels, for example, and you go to the daily chart, you should very clearly see bounces and rejections and things happening, with precision at those weekly levels you drew, even if you're looking at the daily chart, even if you're looking at the 4-hour chart, so on and so forth, right? And what you'll find yourself doing, or you should start to see yourself doing, is you almost wind up drawing fewer and fewer levels as you get to the smaller time frames, because if you are doing them correctly on the higher time frames, those higher time frames are going to account for support and resistance levels that also hold up on your smaller time frames. So they're already marked, but they're marked with a color code that indicates the correct level that you were able to spot them on. And so I think that that's also important, because I personally treat a weekly level differently than I treat an hourly level, right? I'm going to put a lot more respect, or treat a weekly level with a lot more respect, or expect it to hold up and the price action to react and respond to that weekly level a lot more readily than I would say, an hourly, especially if there's some kind of confluence there or something. So anyway, let me get down off my soapbox. Of course, man, I hope all this is helpful, and thanks for asking great questions. All right, a firm trade plan. Let's talk about it. So for a firm, what we're looking for here is a break over 1847 to play the upside. I think by the time we do that, that will clear out all of the selling pressure I'm seeing on these indicators. The only thing that might still be lingering overhead is that 333 SMA, but should open up room from 1847 up to 1953. First target with next targets at 2042 and 2180, and a stop loss average down at 1761. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 1674, which should give us targets at 1483, 1381, and 1292, with a stop loss average down at 1674. So with that, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Please come back next week. We will be back on Tuesday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Tuesday and Thursday that the market's open, I'll be here, unless I'm on vacation or something. I'll be here doing these live streams, trying to give you guys great trade plans and as much insight and education as I possibly can in a very short amount of time, about 45 minutes generally speaking. So I hope you guys got a lot from today. I hope you'll get even more from our next session next week. With that, I'm going to cut you all loose so I can go work on the daily SPY plan. I'm also going to leave you with our FOMO live stream slogan, courtesy of our boy 007. That's right, plan your trades and trade your plans, folks. Go out there, get some green. We will see you in the chat. Have a great day, have a great weekend, and I will see you guys back here next Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care.